Good morning, gardeners, habitat gardeners, bird nerds, nature nerds. I'm Grant. I'm a horticulturist. I'm coming to you from the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people. I finally got educated into how to correctly pronounce the uh, the tribe, the name of the traditional owners of Naarm, Melbourne, the place where I have parked my butt. Today, spring has sprung in southeastern Australia. Um, it's still quite cool, which is why I have my heavy jacket on. Uh, but the uh, the weather promises to turn quite a deal warmer over this weekend. And even though it is footy finals time in the two major football codes in Australia, there are some things that you should be thinking about doing in the habitat garden, your wildlife friendly, your nature garden at this time of the year. So we'll walk through them. It's a bit of a dry list, but we'll walk through them. And if you've got questions or comments, or as always, if you've got something interesting that you have seen in your garden this week, um, or if you're hoping something will happen, maybe you've got something that's in bud that's about to burst into bloom. Feel free to throw in a question or a comment. Uh, and at the end of the live stream, or at the end of the list of uh, jobs, tasks, suggestions, I'll update you a bit on the work on the website and something I'm testing out over the weekend that hopefully you will find to be useful for you. I am really trying out a lot of things to find um, a sustainable is probably the right way. Sustainable way to keep producing the content, making it useful, but also making sure that it doesn't take up um, 30 hours a week, which at the moment, creating lists and resources, it is taking a lot of time. But once they're created, they'll be there for everyone. I'm building up a bank of it so that over the summertime and when I want to do some traveling around, seeing some amazing gardens and going bird watching, I don't I don't leave you guys in the lurch for tips and tricks. Anyway, the first category of things that you can do at this time of the year, springtime. And look, there's differences in the climate zones over Australia, but um, I've tried to make them all things that you can do wherever you are. Um, First is the structural things, the assessment that you can do in the sort of uh, hard landscape and the added landscape features that you have in your garden. So, first, just make an observation of the state of the garden following the winter, following the cold period, and just make a list of things that might need your attention. Have you got any areas where soil has eroded in your garden beds after maybe periods of heavy rain or inundation? Um, do you have any damaged plants, storm damage, breakages, perhaps frost damage? anything like that. What have I got here? Sorry, I just saw something cropped up on my messages, but not to do with today. Um, have you had any weeds invading the garden over the winter period? Have you got invasive weeds coming in? Um, uh, have you discovered that there is some room to add some new plants? Um, Perhaps make a note of where perhaps something has got to the point where it's senescing, and you could um, uh, and you can replace it. You can dig out something that is well past its best, and maybe you can move in an indigenous species to replace it. Um, so yeah, and uh, maybe it's a good time to now to um, identify places where you might like to put in a bird bath, some permanent water, a bee hotel, or something like that. Good morning, too, if you've just come in. Spring jobs that you can do in the garden is the topic. I've got about 50 tips or 50 little jobs that we can run through. Um, if you're new, if you're new to Habitat Gardening, if you're new to the show, let me know where you are, what you're doing, um, and if you're an old face, say hello, and or if you're a regular, shouldn't say an old face. My face is old enough, and um, perhaps tell me what your spring maintenance tasks are. Uh, okay, where was I? Map out spaces for habitat features that you might like to add, like bird baths, frog ponds, bee hotels, wasp hotels. And also, this time of the year is when you will want to inspect any of those um, structures that you have added to the garden. So, inspect your nest boxes, your bee hotels. Um, if you've um, got logs or anything like that, hollow logs, um, just check them out. Make sure that you haven't got invasive species in them. Um, if they've been used, if your nest boxes have been used, give them a scrub. 10% bleach, 10% bleach solution. So you can work that out. If you're doing 100 mils of water, 10 mils of household bleach solution. Give them a scrub, rinse them well. This also goes for if you haven't been scrubbing down your bird baths, if you have particularly parrots visiting perhaps a balcony ledge, veranda, or you notice that there are branches that they regularly will perch on before they come and maybe visit you for some food, scrub them down too. Soak them if they've got rough bark. Soak them, scrub them down with a dishwashing brush or something, and then rinse them. This will just help any transmission of diseases that are out there, and particularly among the parrots, we've got the parrot beak and feather disease virus. So do try and be diligent for any of those areas. When you're doing your nest boxes, if you have noticed that the entrance when you first put them up was perhaps pointing in the in a non-optimal direction, i.e., into the prevailing weather. It's a good time to move them around and just do your basic maintenance. If you've noticed that there's cracks or um, you've got rusted screws or hinges or anything like that, excuse me, replace them. Uh, do just do standard maintenance, but do clean them out and yeah. Inspect your natural hollows, crevices, bee hotels. If any insects have been in there and use them and cork them up with mud, uh, perhaps you can knock them out and um, check with your bee hotels that if you've used bamboo canes or anything like that, that if they're cracked or um, rotting, damaged in any ways that make them unusable, replace those bits. Um, it's a good time now to you can add some hollow logs and sticks and piles. You know, we've spoken recently a lot about piles of sticks, piles of mixed piles of debris. A great habitat for um, insects, arthropods, other invertebrates, reptiles. So, your skinks, even if you've got antechinus, beetles will use them. So try and have at least one place where um, that you can keep messy, that the insects and the invertebrates that we would think of as decomposers can come in and use that space, and then that's a great feeding location for um, things like your antechinus and frogs, reptiles. So, uh, oh, there we got some more in. Great to see more on YouTube. Good morning. Um, and now is a good time to check your frog ponds or other water features. Uh, you need to monitor your water features to make sure that you're not getting excessive amounts of algae in there. It's a good time to clean the pump filter. Make sure you've got um, the water level consistent. If it's dropped at all, top it up, and don't over clean though. Remember that you do want some leaf litter and other material if you want frogs in the pond, because that's what the tadpoles eat. Uh, Stan, good morning. No real plans for spring, but watching for ideas. Well, I've got a pile. I've got a pile here. Um, they you plan to be away from home for about a month. Well, let us know where are you going. What are you planning to do? Did you pick up the plants you were going to get from the local nursery too? Um, okay, now this is the time of year when you are thinking about action. If you haven't got a bird bath, a frog pond, any kind of insect hotel, or even one of these debris patches, now's the time to think about where you would locate it. Uh, okay, the next section of things to do is really the plant care and maintenance and pruning that you can do. Uh, Most native plants are quite happy for some shaping, pruning for shaping, and tip pruning. Um, Winter flowering shrubs, this is when you want to have a decent go at them. Uh, if if you've got things like the Banksia spinulosa or some of the grevilleas that flowered over winter that are just finishing their main flush of flowering, cut those flowers away, uh, and you might get a second flush of flowers. Um, Wattles, eucalypts now, a light prune is generally acceptable. Um, uh, Now, I always am a bit torn on this. Generally, we will say remove uh, dead or damaged branches to encourage healthy growth. That's true. But we also want the opportunity for hollows to form. So if you have branches that are dying on a eucalypt that are sort of this big or more, I would say you can trim them, but leave the stub to encourage the formation of a natural hollow in that plant. Um, but if you've got diseased and damaged foliage, broken or bent foliage on your shrubs and small trees, just do a light prune uh, and remove those. Um, Less is more when it comes to this pruning and shaping. It's better to do several light prunes over the course of the year. That will improve the density. That will keep your the outer surface of the plant vigorous and the foliage appearing healthy than a really savage prune once a year or maybe every 2 years. There is a proviso that some species, and I'll mention them if they are that species, some species really benefit from a very, very heavy and severe prune. Um, some hakeas, some callistemons, uh, eucalypts with a lignituber often require that to maintain vigor. But in general, this is where generalizations are always a worry. Uh, Most of the shrubs that are readily available and the small trees that are readily available uh, in your local nurseries are probably going to benefit from regular um, light pruning. Stan, what have we got, Stan? Stan says planning a quick SA trip to either Coober Pedy or the York Peninsula. York Peninsula this time of year is apparently pretty good. Um, uh, and then off to WA next month. Uh, you didn't get your plants or your trees yet. Plan to get a couple of lily pilly from the main nursery. Where are you going in WA? Like how far are you driving? And how far are you going? That would be very very interesting. Um, I started. This is by an aside. I've started the process of reaching out. I'm looking at doing a bit of a travel um, expedition. I've talked about it a number of times, like seeing a lot, trying to get to all of the key biodiversity areas. But I'm looking at expanding that a little bit and reaching out for some support on how to do that. And it's really interesting some of the feedback that I get. I might talk about that um, not on a habitat gardening session, but on another session as we go along. Yeah. All right. Where did I get to? Um, Avoiding heavy pruning. Yes. Okay. Um, uh, 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 it's a good time now too to tidy up your tufty grasses and sedges. So Lamandra and Themata, the kangaroo grass. It's a good if they're looking pretty ratty, and sometimes they are, especially if you've had winter frosts. Uh, it, cut them back by about a third, um, and don't take them all the way back. And I'm sure I've talked about this before too. Um, Grasses don't grow from the tip, and they don't grow from the base. That's an individual grass leaf. Of course, new shoots push up from the base of the tussock, but grasses, the leaf blade generally grows, expands in a zone in the about the middle, roughly the middle of the leaf blade. So if your grasses are actively growing, the native grasses, that's prune them back. That's why the suggestion is, but only by a third. But if you have some that you do want a total refresh, you can take them right back, like scalp them all the way back. But you need to be aware that they will take a long time to rebound. Whereas if you do take your grasses uh, back by about a third, you've left the growing zone, and they'll keep they'll keep going. Um, but remember, there's always a trade off. If you have some lovely poas that are really large tufts, and you've already created a habitat uh, under that curtain of grasses that have grown up and then cascaded, fallen back down to the ground, that space under there is habitat. So perhaps leave those ones alone. Just deadhead them and spread the seeds around, or something like that. Um, and for the poas, like Poa labaladieri, um, the whole tussock is the design feature. So I suppose it's again less is more. You often do not need to even do any maintenance. Danthonias and Themata, wallaby grass, and the kangaroo grass, slightly different. Your sedges, if they're fringing a water feature, well, only do some of them. Like just freshen up some and leave some, because they're already the backbone of a habitat element in your garden. I hope that makes sense. Where are we now? Um, oh, pathways. Clear. Now's a good time to clear um, anything that are obstructing your pathways, and especially if you like them to, if they're a design feature and you want the pebbles or rocks or steps to be visible and be a design feature, now's a good time to clean them up. But remember, you can use the leaf litter that might have dropped, or any sticks in your beautiful debris pile, for your invertebrates to use. So, uh, yeah, you can move a problem from one part of your garden and make it an asset in another uh, one. Now, also, uh, um, if you have um, callistemons and hakeas and melaleucas that have set a lot of seed over previous years along their stems, uh, think about cutting some of those off if you're not going to be using them for propagation, and spreading them out around the garden, because those seeds will be recycled and consumed. Uh, and whether it be for your seed eating birds, parrots or finches or something, there's plenty of critters that will make use of them. Um, it's also a good way of making sure that you do prune the some of the older wood out of your mature shrubs. Um, where are we up to now? Da, da, da. If you here's another one too. Uh, if you are cutting, if you've got a vegetable garden and you're cutting back some of your overgrown veggies, or if your broccoli or kale, lettuce, cabbages, or anything have bolted, cut the cut the seed, uh, cut those stems off, but throw them around because your birds, your local birds, will love to feed on them, especially if you've got lorikeets and rosellas and some cockatoos visiting. They will have a real crack at them, and it helps them get some of the um, elements, the nutrients that they might be a little bit missing in their, if they don't have a lot of other indigenous local plants around in your area. Let's see. Um, did I make the point? When you're clearing away leaf litter from paths or whatever, but do make sure that you leave some adjacent to the path, because they are habitat, obviously, for insects, arthropods, other invertebrates, and small reptiles. I did mention earlier weed control, invasive weeds, get rid of them. Um, pull them up by hand. Use mechanical control methods so that you don't use um, herbicides, pesticides, please. Um, Bit of a tip with weed control: it's better to get them just as they sprout. So a regular sort of emu patrol of your garden, the open spaces of your garden, and the paving gaps and the borders, the edges of your garden. Just pull them. Better to pull them out when they're 3 or 5 leaves, rather than waiting until they're got an established root system and you have to engage in a tug of war to remove them. Um, okay. Uh, soil, soil maintenance, mulching, and feeding. Um, so, apply your organic mulches at this time of the year. Um, we talk about native wood chips, leaf litter, of course, weed suppression, moisture retention is the aim there, um, and of course, as the organic matter is decomposing, it's cycled back into the soil to improve the nutrient value and the structure of your soil. Um, uh, it's important to do early spring is a good time to remind yourself to do this, because you want this to have been done, and you want some decomposition to have started before the hot weather, the hot northerly winds start arriving, and you reduce the chance of any of your garden soil to become hydrophobic by drying out too much. So, yeah, get into that now. Um, if you're going to buy mulch, if you're importing mulch, try and ensure that you get it, that it's locally sourced, so that you're not transporting potential pathogens and weed seeds from other regions into your region. But try not to buy any. Just utilize what you have, all your clippings, or your um, you should be composting your kitchen waste, and you should be thinking about a worm farm, all that kind of stuff now. And if you've got those sticks and uh, things and your debris pile might be too big, well, break them up. Break them up. Uh, Even think about getting a small mulcher and turn your own garden waste into your own mulch. Um, it's a good time now to do some fertilizing, top dress fertilizing for those low phosphorus native plants, which is all of the proteaceae. So that includes your hakeas, your grevilleas, your banksias, uh, your dryandras, the Florida. Uh, so just a light top dressing, um, prills or pellets, so that they are slow release, and um, a, an acceptable NPK for most of these species is 816 or less, but it's nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. The one is the important value in there. One for phosphorus. Um, okay. Worm farm casings. If you've got a worm farm and you've got casings that can go in now, pop those around your particularly heavy gross feeders. If you've got kangaroo apples, the native Solanum aviculare, uh, or if you've got any green manure crops that you are using as mulch, that's a great time to pop them out now. Um, um, while I did mention this is always the trade off. If you are in an area of the country where ground nesting bees uh, occur, leave a part of your garden bare because they need that space. Also, I don't think I've mentioned this before too. It's birds love having a dust bath too. So a dry, dusty area is something that birds will appreciate. I know we always say mulch this bit, mulch that. This is why we mentioned at the start of the year, the start of the conversation. This is when you can start jotting down the things that you might want to add to your garden. A dust bath area would be good. You can do a dust bath in a shallow, like terracotta saucer, a large one, and you could create your own dust. Um, won't dwell on that now, but that's an option if you don't have another spot. Uh, Aerating compacted parts of the garden with a fork will help rainfall penetrate, uh, and if you're lucky enough to have bandicoots in your visiting your garden, by doing some light aeration, and that doesn't mean turn over the clods. It means put your garden fork in, wiggle it around, and just lift it slightly so that you can feel the soil spaces opening up a little bit. Bandicoots will go straight there and dig uh, in those areas. Um, uh, okay, next we're going to get into a bit of information about um, weed and pest control. Uh, Hand pull the winter annual weeds, capeweed, chickweed, uh, and make sure that you get them before they set seed. If you have big areas that you want to eradicate the weeds, so if you've got an area of the garden that you're going to develop, and this would be if you have a big areas and you want to do everything manually and not use any herbicides, you can use a technique called solarization, and we were using this at Burnley a lot when I was there. You can use sheets of clear plastic, spread them over an area, peg them down or weigh them down, and as we're getting into that period where the solar energy that will hit your soil is quite significant, the clear plastic will increase the soil temperature to the in the level where the weed seeds are, to an extent where the temperature will rise so much as to cook the seeds, basically, to make them unviable. Also, will remove a lot of the microflora in that patch, but it's a trade-off that they'll come back later on, but this can remove a large reservoir of weed seeds in a large patch of ground. So just something to bear in mind. It's not something you need to do, but it's something to bear in mind if you are going to develop a big area, or if you have a problem area where weeds come back year after year after year after year. Perhaps solarizing an area before you redevelop it, put a new garden bed in or something, um, is a good idea. It's a good time of the year to just walk around your garden, have a good look at all of your trees and shrubs, and monitor if you have any pest insects that are starting to infest and to build up populations, like passion vine hoppers, uh, lerp psyllids, aphids. Now, bear in mind, a lot of these things are pests, but they're also food. So you want to be monitoring the population. Um, to eradicate them, you can blast them off or to move them, dislodge them. You can blast them off with a strong jet of water, jet nozzle. Or if you need to, you can use like a horticultural oil, white oil, or pest oil. But if you are going to use that method, do it in the cool portion of the day. Otherwise, you will burn the plant foliage or the tender bark that they might be on. Um, uh, uh, um, it's also a time to check all of your lawns, paths, under your houses, really anywhere, and check that you haven't got any invasive species that you need to be aware of, like fire ants or any of the other ant colonies that you do not want. You can don't do this with fire ants. Um, they're notifiable, so you do need to let the appropriate authorities, whether it's your Department of Ag or your council, know if you do have them. But if you've got just annoying black or Argentine ants in a place where you don't want the colony, you can pour some boiling water and some detergent into the nest holes, biodegradable nest holes, um, and that will deter the colony. We probably won't wipe them all out, but it will reduce their numbers and make them less able to spread to other areas. And that's much better than using any of the baits or the powders, because those, while they're toxic for the ants, they're also harmful for everything else that eats the ants, and also anything else that might be licking the soil while they're grazing for other things too. So, particularly lizards have a big problem uh, with uh, with those products. So, it's a good opportunity to not use them. Um, okay, what are we up to? Okay, I've mentioned scrubbing the bird baths. Um, Now, if you're able to, always fill your bird baths and your ponds with fresh rainwater. If you don't have fresh rainwater, um, and you have to use tap water, put your tap water into a bucket and leave it out for a couple of days, which will allow some of the chlorine to dissipate and minimize any harm that you might be doing by adding treated water into your ponds. Um, uh, it's also a great time now to, if you've got an irrigation system installed in your garden, it's now time to open up the ends um, and flush your your drip irrigation or your spray irrigation lines, and do a inventory of all of your emitters, your drippers, your sprays, and any that are clogged, either remove them and clean them or replace them. And that will, you can get that done before the hot weather, before the summer rolls around, and so that you don't have to be standing in the store along with everyone else who forgot to do it on the really hot day, only to find that they sell out and that half your garden is going to cook, or else you're going to have to be out there with a hose when you would prefer to be doing something else. So just the simple irrigation tasks. Test your timers too. If you have timers, test all of your solenoid valves, test that they are working, um, and do the maintenance on those. We might do another show on that, on what maintenance for those things actually is. I'm assuming that if you've got them installed, you do already know, but a lot of people don't test that their um, wired connections are still working. So yeah, do test all of your lines, and do test um, that your watering cycles, your programs that you have set up, are functioning. Um, as we're coming into summer, bees, butterflies, other insects will be looking for water, particularly on the hot days, and on the windy days. You can help those insects out by popping out some shallow terracotta saucers uh, with stones and pebbles in them and a low level of water, um, so that those insects can take up the water that they require. This is something you need to do, like your bird bath every morning. Fill it with some new water, or top up the levels, and keep that going. Um, okay, springtime is a good time for planting. Um, and we've done a lot of conversations about uh, bird-friendly food plants. Well, um, if you've got the blue-banded bees, guess what they like? They like uh, scavolas, the fan flowers. They like westringas. So think about adding a scavola or I'm sure Dampiera is probably in the same boat, um, or a westringa. So there's a couple of good suggestions for today. Um, if your garden is one of those that, where you, and this is what most people do when they start out, you go to the nursery and you want Oh, you've got enough money for 40 plants or 50 plants, and you go and get one of those, 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 and you dot them all around. Well, that's certainly not best practice, but it is what most of us do in the beginning. So, spring's an ideal time to think of where you have some spaces that you can fill and that you can add to. So, think about if you already have a Callistum Captain Cook that is doing terrifically well in a spot, or a Grevillea alpina, or a Banksia spinulosa, go and get another one and or two and plant it nearby so that you get a little thicket of the same plants that the birds or insects like. Make a note of the birds and of the plants that the birds and insects and other animals do like, and double down. Double down on what works. Um, Planting in clusters creates dense habitat patches for small birds and insects. And you can triple down by plant in clusters at every level, every layer, which I know we've talked about a lot on this show. So um, perhaps last week's a good place to begin for that. Um, if you don't have a list already of indigenous plants that are suitable and available in your nursery for your area, um, reach out to Landcare Group, local Indigenous nursery, Society for Growing Australian Plants, or indeed you can send me a message and I'll help you out. Help you out with that. Um, all right, let me get on to the next one. Uh, 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 all right, just some more tips about soil prep. If you don't know your soil pH levels, uh, think about the make this early part of spring before the footy final fever takes over, or anything else that you might be doing, like Stan driving somewhere cool and checking out some new locations. Get yourself a soil test kit, soil pH test kit, and test some different parts of your gardens and make a note. And you actually make sure you've got yourself an exercise book or a scrapbook or something, and start making notes about these things, and making observations for different times of the year. So make your first entry. Head out to Office Works or the Reject Shop or whatever today, and buy yourself an exercise book. You know, I've always got them. I've always got them handy. These little things to note things down. Um, pH pH levels, different spots in the garden, and you can monitor them over seasons or over years. Um, to give an idea, uh, any problems that you might have, and you can also make some observations about the structure of the soil. How sandy is it? Is it really dry? Is it wet? Is it stinky? Does it seem rich, as, as we would often think of it as a good soil? Describe its color or its texture, and all these little things. If you ever need to diagnose problems, that will give your experts, your horticulturists, your experienced gardeners at your local nurseries, or even friends, if you've got you know, good gardeners in your friend circle, an idea of what some of the issues might be, to give you some tips and tricks. I mentioned before, it's top dressing, low low phosphorus fertilizers. Get into that. Any compacted soil, we did mention aerating it. Um, Not only will the bandicoots like it, but if you do have compacted soils, particularly fringing paths or anywhere where people take shortcuts or where you have perhaps vehicle tracks that, or if your dog runs around a particular area all the time, those places will become compacted. So get your garden fork out and try and lift and open up some spaces in that soil. That will allow air and water to get in there. That will encourage the soil microflora and insects to get in there and do uh, uh, their soil engineering work. It will help you maintain a healthy garden and will also cut out a lot of work, remedial work that you may need to do later on. Um, uh, that that compaction work is, or reducing compaction work is particularly important in areas where you have a high clay content in your soil. So if you've got that reddy brown, rich mountain soil as the basis of your garden, you are going to be particularly susceptible to compaction. Sandy loam is also susceptible to compaction. Um, and compaction you will notice most if you lightly water an area and the water just uh, everywhere else infiltrates into the soil and drains through, giving the plants and the garden better drink. But you have areas where the water pools. Uh, that area was probably going to be compacted. Of course, if everything runs to that spot, that might be another reason for the pooling. But if you're basically looking at i- identical spots in terms of the gradient around the garden, but you have areas where you have no water infiltration or really slow water infiltration, it could be due to compaction. So pop your garden fork into those areas and give it a little wiggle, and maybe that will fix it up. Um, I've mentioned a few times about fertilizing at this time of the year with low phosphorus fertilizers. Your things like dynamic lifter. Less is more. Do not over fertilize. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that, well, it says to give 1 teaspoon. Two's got to be better, right? No, that can lead to toxicity problems. So just don't do that. Uh, my general rule is like I would like to use half the amount of fertilizer, but perhaps fertilize twice as often. I like to see how plants react to what has been applied. And then you can always add a bit more if they've reacted positively. If they seem to appreciate that nutrient boost, well, you can always add a little bit more. Um, but if plants are growing strongly and they look healthy, you don't need to help them out with much more. Um, la, 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 la. What else have we got? Uh, 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 oh, now is a good time too. In your exercise book, now's a really good time to begin um, monitoring your garden in a way that takes advantage of things like when I produce a flowering calendar for different genuses or species or different plant layers or different colors. Start noting down when things are flowering in your garden. Don't just rely on your memory. Actually, use your exercise book and make a note. It's, it's a garden diary, right? Um, and then you can start to take note of when perhaps your bird migrants arrive. When do you first hear the sacred kingfishers or the currawongs? Or if you're a bit further north than me, when do the bee eaters start to turn up? When do you start hearing the cuckoos? When do you see the cuckoos? Have you got flame robins or Jackie Winters that appear at different times of the year? What are they doing? Make notes of what birds and animal visitors, insects are doing in your garden. You can perhaps log them into eBird, iNaturalist, bird data, and make your observations useful from a citizen science point of view. If you've never listened to the bird emergency, if you're here just for the gardening, in my bird emergency interviews, we often talk about the invaluable information that this kind of localized citizen science, which is really easy to do in your own garden, uh, it supplies really useful information. What birds are feeding on what plants? Uh, it's really, really useful. So do think about eBird, iNaturalist, and bird data as being places that you can put the information that you are noting down in your garden diary so that other people can benefit um, from your observations and your experiences in your garden. And indeed, I'd love to hear about anything interesting, and we can talk about it on the show and the spread the joy, spread the love. Um, uh, Frog ID is another citizen science project that helps monitor tadpoles, frogs uh, around the country. Land care groups like to know this kind of information. If you've got tadpoles or frogs' eggs, make notes of it, take photos of it, upload it uh, to the relevant sites. People are interested in things like dragonfly nymphs. Um, uh, People are interested in wildlife scat. If you have wallabies, kangaroos, bandicoots, antechinus, possums, people are interested. If you have owls visiting your gardens and they are regurgitating pellets, people are interested in this too. So um, extend your own observations into things that can be useful for people doing research. So I'll try and get a bit more active again in the interviews that I'm doing on the bird emergency into a lot of these citizen science projects. But um, iNaturalist is a really good place to begin to find out what might be going on in your area. Another good thing to do is just put your suburb or your city down and put in citizen science projects into your search engine, and you might find that there are some really interesting things where people are wanting data to help their projects along. Um, it's also a good idea to take regular photographs of and from the same points in your garden at different times of the year, and when you do and add something new in and a new project, just to help you remember what things were like and to get that happy feeling that you might be making a difference. on a micro level. Um, okay. People are often interested in what in wildlife tracks as well. That uh, and at this time of the year, early spring, a lot of species are just beginning the breeding activities, pairing off. So if you can see birds or animals beginning that behaviour and looking for places, um, and I know I mentioned pruning earlier on, but if you know that there are honey eaters that are really interested in a, a thicket, a thick patch of your garden bed or something, leave that bit alone. They might be constructing nests. Uh, so yeah, it comes down to just being aware of what's going into your garden. So avoid disturbance where nesting or other breeding behaviours appear to be happening. How do you know that? You always keep a good look out on what's going on in your garden uh, at time to time. Um, I did mention earlier on that you want to have a look at areas where you may have had erosion, so you might need to be addressing that. A way to do that is by adding ground covers or grasses into those areas to slow down the runoff that might be causing it. Um, uh, if you've got drains in your garden, check all of those. If you have soaks or swales or anything, any of those sort of mechanical water management techniques that you're using in your garden. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're probably not doing it. But anything that slows down the runoff on a slope, make sure they're still working. Make sure that any barriers that you have installed are still there. Um, so, um, and if they're not, well, maybe rebuild them, rebuild them, or maintain them. Um, if you've got places in the garden that are waterlogged and you don't want them to be waterlogged, it's also a good time to start that uh, amelioration or repair work. And uh, what's required can take many different forms. We can talk about that. I think we'll do a water management episode coming up shortly. Um, Now's also a good time to reach out if you've got a local land care group or a local special interest group in the region, maybe Powerful Hours or any other monitoring projects for unusual species or pest species, or um, get involved. If you've got a local garden group and you've got the time and energy, get involved. Um, this is a good time to reach out. People are re-engaging. A lot of people are coming back from holidays if they've been holidaying in the northern hemisphere. Um, there's also a lot of particularly in cities like Melbourne, around the footy season, and the show is about to start. There's a whole lot of sort of communal activity that re-engages at this time of the year. So it's a good time to reach out to community groups. Um, I want to make another point too. I did mention about being careful with um, breeding and nesting activity. Also, if you are clearing things like um, trees with lots of old bark and things like that, just be mindful that they might be homes for microbats. If you've got rubbish leaning up against your building and things like that, like planks and things like that, microbats might have moved in there. So uh, before you pull things down and rip things down, just have a little look around and see what might be already using your garden that you are unaware of. Um, uh, uh, um, uh, it's also a good time of the year to do a bit of an inventory or uh, a check the practices that you're using in your garden. If you can do away with netting, anything like that in your garden, now maybe make that decision now and remove it. Uh, Netting to protect fruit trees and things like that are basically awful for native wildlife. So if you can do without it, um, do all of us a favour and remove it. Um, okay, just some other uh, maintenance. Uh, Now's a good time to check how any machinery that you use in your garden uh, is is going. Uh, Mowers, edges, trimmers. Good time to clean them down. Do preventative maintenance. Sharpen them. Make sure the extension leads and everything are safe. If they haven't been tagged, if you've never had a uh, an electrical tagging done on them, see if you can find somewhere that will do them. Some of the hardware stores and power gardening sort of outlets can help you with that. Um, Sharpen your secateurs, your loppers, your any axes, anything like that. It's a good time to sharpen your tines and your edges on your gardening implements. Oil what needs to be oiled. Clean them. Uh, Remember, secateurs and loppers are also ways that diseases can spread around your garden. Good practice, keep them clean and keep them sharp. Methylated spirits is a really good way to clean them down. You can also wipe them down with a 10% bleach mix. Um, this is especially important if you are pruning anything that might have that if you know that there may be disease in your area for any of the Metaceae group, so any of Melaleucas, callistemons, eucalypts, um, and syzygiums, lily pillies, anything like that. And just trying to think what else we've got. Well, if you've got any of these sort of mosaic viruses, rusts, anything like that can all be transmitted through your pruning your garden implements. So keep them sharp, keep them clean. Um, Metho's good. You can have a rag that is soaked in metho and just between cuts, just give it a wipe. That will really reduce the chances of transmission of some of these potentially devastating um, garden diseases. Um, it's also a good idea if you are transporting things like wheelbarrows and mowers between properties. Clean the wheels, clean the wheels and the bases, the the bases of legs or anything that contact the soil. Wipe them down too. They're potentially vectors for these soil-borne diseases, and the um, wheelbarrows, the bowls or the receptacle area of your wheelbarrow can harbour these pathogens as well. Um, okay. I mentioned earlier on it's a great time to plan and think about new projects. So, uh, make up your wish list, draw up a spring and summer planting plan. Think about how you can add to or renovate existing garden beds, or if you can extend garden beds, or if there are new areas uh, you would like to add. Um, it's a good time now to get plants established, correas, waratahs, um, uh, native violets. Get them established now uh, while the soil is still moist and reasonably cool. That's for the temperate and cool zones. If you're in the subtropics and the tropical zone, uh, now is a good time to start sun hardening any anything that you have been growing on or that you want to grow and go and purchase as tube stock or small plants. Melastomas and syzygiums are examples of this, that you might be buying them from somewhere where they've been under shade cloth. Now is the time, if you are buying anything like that, you can get them sun hardened out in the open now before the sun gets too intense and too hot. If you're in the arid and the inland area, um, now is the time to be sowing, planting out warm season grasses. Ostrostipa, Eragrostis examples of that. And now is the time to be making sure your trickle or drip irrigation is being installed in any new garden beds that you have um, decided to implement, or any new plantings. Also, remember, if you're using drippers or emitters to individual plants, you need to be ensuring that when you do some planting now, this is for all zones and all types. Apart from watering in well and getting your plant established, make sure you are adding those the drippers or emitters. Um, if you're extending your garden beds or increasing the amount of plant material, if you're doubling or tripling, like I mentioned, by increasing the amount of plants in a zone that are working well and increasing your levels, remember that means you need more water to maintain over the hot periods. So perhaps you want to get an extra water tank, or if you're using barrels or anything like that, you might want to be increasing your water storage ability now. And you may want to be thinking about utilizing grey water or downpipe diverters, anything that you haven't already implemented, to make sure that you do have plenty of water available for summer. Also, think about what you could do to uh, harvest water that you could be using in the fire danger period too. That's a whole different subject, but if you're thinking about a new water harvesting regime for gardening, see if you can piggyback onto that, some kind of um, fire prevention or firefighting purpose on top of it too. It may just lead to you getting a saving on your insurance. Do uh, it's a specialised area. Happy to help with that. Um, if that's something you would like to do, to reach out to me. Um, now, if you've ever thought about a shade sail or adding a shade house or something like that, um, if you'd like a shady gully or somewhere where you can grow ferns, uh, start thinking about that design and what might work now, but it might be something that you implement for next year rather than this year if you haven't already got down that pathway. Um, just throwing that one out there. And um, the last thing is just reiterating that there might be events that you can participate in, like uh, uh, there might be a neighbourhood bee count or something like that going on, or there you might have the local school or some other group um, doing some kind of inventories on nature strips and things like that. Just look out for what is going on locally and see if you can contribute with the knowledge that you have and the asset that your habitat garden might be. So I've got to the end of what I of my big long list. Um, so does anyone have a question or a comment? And while we wait for that, I'll just note I'm working on something on the website which I think I mentioned last week. It's taken me a lot longer than I expected to be getting these things done. But I'm looking at been building up this database of uh, plants and lists and um, for different purposes and different uses for different birds and animal species in the country. I'm looking at having it so you can put your postcode in and uh, will return for to you a number of appropriate plants for you to use in different layers for your location. Of course, it's generally nature, but I think you should find it useful. And one of the um, sort of criteria for the plants that are suggested is that they are able to be sourced either in um, your local nurseries or that they're being sold by sort of mail order or delivery. Um, so that's something that we're looking at the moment, getting organised. I should note too today, and we're streaming to a new outlet too today. It is still YouTube, but it's the um, what do I call it? Great Gardening with Grant uh, channel. So I'll still be doing this on the bird emergency, but I will be doing gardening only stuff will sort of be popped over there. Stan, what have you said? Good job with the suggestions. You asked about WA. I did indeed. I'm heading to the southwest. So I skipped that on my lap last year. Well, fantastic. I hope you enjoy that little corner. What are you going down to Augusta or somewhere like that and down to Cape, where is it? Cape Lewin down there. You might find a West Australian ground parrot down there, Stan. Noisy scrub bird. Couple of little beauties to look for down there. Fantastic plants to be looking for down there as well. Um, are the are you allowed to bring the plants out of Western Australia, or are they not allowed to go in? I'm I can't remember. You might find some really interesting plants to purchase down there too, Stan. So I hope you enjoy that, and I uh, hope that you did find a lot of those tips useful. Stan says I'll do the full loop and head back through Perth. Uh, you got two of my streams in your feed. What what do you mean? Give me more details on that. Um, Is that for is that for easy listening while you're traveling, or have you repurposed them into the Kangaroo Island TV channel? It's fine to do that too, by the way. I'm quite happy for this kind of information to be repurposed and reused. If you do want to do that on your channel, provided it's a good channel. I don't want to see it on Zionist Nazis Australia channel. In that case, I will require a takedown. But if it's sharing uh, good information in a relevant community, I'm all for it. Um, all right, let's get into a bit of housekeeping chit chat. Um, I'm It's taken me a long time to move forward on things that I'm wanting to do because what I'm doing is trying to build out everything I can in a sustainable way. And I'm really looking at adding the trivia into the Discord channel. That's sort of stalled a little bit. Uh, I need to fund some of the things, like there's some programs I need to purchase before I start them. I don't want to start doing something in one way that I am then going to change. Uh, I see what you've got. The live stream is showing up twice, one from Bird Emergency and one from Habitat Gardening. Yes, that is uh, that is true. That is true. It is streaming to two YouTube channels, also to Twitch and to Facebook. But I think only we're only getting people watching on YouTube, which is good. Um, Reason being, Stan, is that the the garden specific stuff that I'm going to start producing will only appear in the Habitat Gardening. What have I called it? Great Gardening with Grant or something. I couldn't have most of the names that I wanted to have for that channel. Um, uh, all of those things like tips and tricks that are basic. Uh, uh, that are basically gardening topics. Yeah, Stan, you must sub to both. Well done. Um, uh, I thought I had no subs on that channel because I haven't promoted it at all. Um, uh, yeah, Habitat Gardening with Grant. That's right. Yeah, I must have eventually got the name I wanted. Good. Um, so yes, as you would know, Stan, YouTube's uh, a funny thing. Um, they don't like you mixing the content up, so so I will be doing more gardening on the Habitat Gardening stuff, but I'll keep doing the Q&A like this on the Bird Emergency, and I'm doubling down. I've let the Bird Emergency sort of um, uh, not wither away. We've kept doing content, but I haven't reached out to a whole lot of new content creators or new interview subjects because I've been actually doing more of a deep dive on all of the people that I'm prepared to talk to. And I think I've mentioned this before. Uh, and there's a big divide. I mean, people who are upset about watermelons and are apologists uh, for genocide, I'm just not going to talk to them. Um, so it means I have to do a lot more background research on who I approach, because I don't really want to have that situation where I have a watermelon as a background or something and they freak out. Um, anyway, that's by the by. But yeah, I am. Uh, I'm compiling a list of 100 potential guests, and I will uh, approach them all. I'm also wanting to do a bit of a subathon, chasing subscribers to sort of rejig the bird emergency. So we might be doing a series of 12-hour streams for the bird emergency, which will then get cut up and be uh, different episodes for the actual podcast. Because I hadn't realised it's been so long since I've put out a podcast episode. I've been focusing on all the live stream and the interviews and the interactive things on YouTube, which I really enjoy. But whether you can say I've dropped the ball, I actually really did need to refresh and refocus, and that's what has been happening. Yes, that's what will be happening. Um, and that's what I'll be doing most of this weekend, is continuing uh, to work on those things. I'm really torn about Substack. I don't know if I'm going to do it, just for a number of reasons. I think Patreon might be the main delivery method for uh, for all of these useful guides. I've got a lot of them now, um, and we'll just see how that goes. And yeah, we'll just see how that goes. And I think, being brutally honest, it costs a lot of money to do this nowadays. Um, just the level of stuff that you need to do it well enough. Um, and look, there may come a day where the bird emergency sort of drops off the scene, because I have been extremely underwhelmed with the sort of reciprocal support I get from the sort of bird community, which uh, I'm going, and it's not woe poor me, but people don't even send me information about new projects and stuff like that, which I just think, oh well, if people don't think enough of me to add me to their mailing list, uh, they're hardly they're hardly likely to want to be a guest on the show. Anyway, I am, just to clue you in, I am going to reach out to one bird conservation uh, project for every country in the world that I am able to find, where I can identify someone who speaks English, uh, except Israel, the US. I mean, I've got millions of US people at the moment, and I think I'll be skipping Russia, and I think I will be skipping Belarus, uh, North Korea. I'm sure I'll find one or two others uh, that I don't want to chat to. Maybe Myanmar, but I'm not sure I'd find anyone anyway. Uh, but yeah, so that's the housekeeping, and that's what to look forward to, I guess, for the bird emergency. So we'll put an effort into rebooting it, and I'll just see how that goes. Um, uh, Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's about all I have got for you today. I hope you found the tips useful. If you're watching in the future, if you're watching the live stream as a video, uh, I do these live streams every Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, but pretty soon we'll be coming into Australian Eastern Daylight Time. But at 9:30 a.m. In Melbourne, in Australia, check your whatever time that is uh, in your local time zone. That's when you'll find us. Uh, I'll be extending the kind of content I do to be. Um, I won't lessen the Australian stuff, but I will be adding some other climate and geographical zones around the world to make um the information a bit more flexible for gardeners wherever you may be. And we'll start with Southeast Asia and the Pacific. So, because I know you don't get a lot of love in there's not a lot of gardening content aimed, wildlife gardening content aimed at Southeast Asia and the Pacific. So let's have a crack there. Have a terrific weekend. Stay safe. Stay engaged, and take me up on that tip. Start making some notes about what's going on in your garden and make some observations. I did get a nice message. Someone sent me a message on Snapchat this morning showing me a grey currawong that was browsing in their local park. So I appreciate little things like that. Um, Cheers. I'm Grant. I'm a horticulturist. I'm a bird nerd. This has been Habitat Gardening on Habitat Gardening with Grant and the Bird Emergency. Hooroo!